Hello, hello. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the flow part of our practice and give you a few tips about how to make these postures feel a little better in your body, and just getting you a general sense of the direction we're going in my live online classes this month. Okay, so of course, use bricks if you need them. They are always a good idea to help support the spine, support the breath. And if you need to pad your knees, of course, do. On hands and feet. We're going to step the right foot forward into a lunge. Now, one way to make stepping forward a lot easier is to simply take your hands out to the side and step the right foot forward. Okay? When we try to step forward here, it's possible, but notice my spine's going to do a lot of different things in order to get the foot to step forward. The other way you can step forward is to simply step on the outside of the hand. Okay? We've got a couple versions here. So we'll take our hands out to the side and step forward. That gives me a lot of room in my hip. And then I'm going to come up to Anjaneyasana, or a version of. And so here we're going to raise the arms overhead. And when we raise our arms overhead, instead of imagining that they're kind of lifting up from the tops of our shoulders, could you feel that they're connected all the way down to your waist? And so we breathe the arms up. Okay. As we progress, we're going to take a side bend. So the right hand comes to the thigh, and you're going to lift up and over to the right. Now, it might feel quite subtle, but you're shortening the right side of your waist and lengthening the left side. Let the top of the head reach out through the spine. Okay, we're going to reach both arms up and now twist to the right. And as you twist to the right, you might curl your hands into fists. Take the arms a little bit forward of the shoulders and then reach in opposite directions. When we reach directly out through the shoulders, it can create a sense of pinching and make this feel a little bit more challenging. So to help aid the rotation of the ribs, you take your arms forward a bit and then reach out. See how that feels. In our final progression of this, we're going to reach the hand down the thigh, scoop the front palm up towards the ceiling. So already we're spiraling. And my arm is an extension of the back here. So I spiral and I lift into a little back bend, and I might take my gaze towards my back shoulder. I'm pressing down to the back shin. As we unwind, let's bring both arms up towards the ceiling and bring the fingertips to the ground. Tuck your back toe and lift your knee. And as you do that, you're broadening through the back body. I'm going to step the back foot forward, take a forward fold. Bend the knees and draw the left knee in towards chest. And notice I'm tucking my pelvis under so that my center of gravity is balanced right over my heel, middle of my foot. That way I can press straight down and unfurl through the spine as I rise up. Okay, try that one more time. So we've got 2 feet down, curling. And as we shift the weight to the right foot, I'm moving that tail forward, bringing the knee in, and slowly unwinding by pushing down the foot. Okay, if you like, you might, in the last progression class, instead of stepping forward, you might come from a lunge. So stepping that back knee in and rising all the way up. Notice I've got my pelvis moving forward. Okay, so we're going to step back into a high lunge now. In high lunge, this can be a bit tricky, especially if flexion of the toes and lifting of the heel is a bit precarious or not right for you. Of course, if it's not good for you, always step back more into a grounded heel, kind of like a warrior one position. So if you can, lift the back heel and rotate it up towards the ceiling. Now, bending the back knee will provide a little bit more stability, might help you get the pelvis right underneath you a bit better. It also might be a bigger ask on the toes and their flexion, so just keep that in mind. The wider you take your feet, to a certain degree, the more stability you might feel. If you've got the foot right behind you, that's like being on a tightrope. It's going to be pretty unstable. Step back into this high lunge, raising the arms up. Feel like they come from your waist. And then again, we're going to take the right hand to thigh and side bend. The side bending really coming from the ribs. The lower half can stay stable. Okay, we'll lift back up to center. And as you twist to the right, remember arms forward. Curl the hands into fists and reach the knuckles out, almost like they're radiating on two diagonals. Take the hand down the thigh and scoop the front palm up. Now this might be a nice moment for you to play with straightening that back knee. Keep lifting up through the bottom ribs. Maybe finishing the spiral, taking your gaze towards the back shoulder, even back quarter of the mat. Now from here, we're going to come into warrior two. I'm going to just turn that back heel down and open up. Whew, that's a doozy. Let's try all of that on the left side. We're going a little bit out of order, but we want to give that right side a little bit of a rest. We're coming all the way down onto your hands and knees. Remember, we take our hands out to the side, then step that foot forward. Coming up to Anjaneyasana. Now you decide how much you want to send the pelvis forward, okay? And we're reaching the arms out of the waist. Left hand to thigh, side bending. Really try to get it in the ribs and upper spine, rather than the shoulders. Okay, we lift back up to center, and as you twist to the left, arms a little bit ahead of your shoulders. Curl the hands into fists and reach the knuckles. Now, one side might feel different, a little bit more easy or challenging than the other. I'm really trying to feel this whole rib basket roll around. Okay, you might reach down your back thigh, scoop the front palm up, and this is a nice opportunity, if you haven't already, to let the pelvis come forward as you spiral. What can happen is this coming into the shoulders, or this being just a flaring of the ribs up. What could you feel from the inside out, like a fountain that you're sprouting up and over? We come back to center and release the hands down. Now you tuck the back toe, broaden your upper back, and really do feel your body lift with you, right? So I'm lifting my pelvis and lifting my ribs. Step the back foot forward. And then soften your knees. And again, we've got that tail moving under as we curl the right knee in towards chest. Now keep that right knee in towards chest until you feel there's an actual moment where you want to unfurl the spine. It's even hard for me, so don't worry if it's challenging for you as well. Okay, try it again. So from 2 feet, shifting the weight, left foot, press down. See if you can unfurl all the way to standing. Woo. Left side is really hard for me. So these movements are meant to challenge us, but also reconnect us to sequential movement. What it feels like to rise up from the ground and articulate through the whole spine. Okay, we're going to step back, high lunge. Remember that rounding the heel, you always have permission to do that. Just know it might make the twist a little bit different. But if you can, this month I'll encourage you to really see what it feels like to lift the heel up towards the ceiling, spread out the toes, and practice toe flexion. That is a very important movement because that's where we get our power in running, pushing off to walk, right? So it's a really good movement to be training. Bending the knee might help the tail drop down and make this a bit more stable. Feet a little bit wider, also an option. So now we're going to take the arms up, lifting from the waist. Left hand to thigh, we side bend. Lift up through center, we take a twist. Arms forward. Maybe bending that back knee will help the spiral. Sorry. Help the spiral. And then reach down your back thigh, scoop the front palm up. And this is where you might play with extending behind the knee, really feeling the spine lift up from the inside out. Coming back around, warrior two. Okay, and pause. Okay, last movements here. So we come back to the first side, right? We have the right foot forward, left foot back, warrior two. Okay, 3 progressions we're gonna visit today. So back hand to hip. I want you to start to lunge into the front knee and tap either the knee, shin, ankle, or ground. Notice to tap down, I'm flexing at the hip, and I'm trying to keep my spine relatively undisturbed. So this doesn't mean bend here and then to tap the ground, I drop the spine and curl. This means in order to tap lower, the movement's coming from the hip down. Right? I'm trying to keep my heel rooted for now. And then press out through the heel to lengthen. What we're doing is we're training ankle flexion, strengthen the knee, and hip flexion. And so we'll do this a couple of times and we'll try tapping in different directions. It'll feel like a slightly different lunge. Okay. And so what we're trying to do is keep the spine pretty long. And we're essentially following the trajectory of extended angle pose. Okay. I'm trying not to send my bum back. I'm trying to keep that tail dropped. Okay, try this one more time. Really training those hamstring muscles as well. And then we'll come into extended angle pose. And so now in your extended angle pose, can you feel that crease in the hip that you just warmed up? Can you reach through the back heel and the top arm to distribute the effort? So it's not just in the front leg, it's through the whole body. And you press into the forearm to rotate the chest open. Maybe turn the gaze skyward. Going all the way up. Last part of this progression, triangle pose. And so a triangle pose, we want to try not to let our knee roll in, but rolling it gently out towards the second, maybe third toe. Any amount that helps you send the hips straight back. And sliding the hand down. And just like we did before, I'm not curling the spine to reach lower. I'm trying to do as much of the flexion in my hip as I can. And let the spine be relatively undisturbed. This way I can breathe a little bit more easily. I'm not straining my spine too much. Okay, and I'm pressing out through both feet, gently rotating my chest up towards the ceiling. Another 2 breaths here. And push down through the legs to stand up. Let's try that on the other side. Turn your left foot forward, toes in. And then start by touching your hips so you feel your pelvis. You know where it's going in space. We're going to bend our knee and tap knee, shin, or ground. The lower we go, the deeper the bend, the more the knee moves past the toe. Because we're trying to keep the spine undisturbed. So how far can we go within reason without collapsing in the upper body? So if I'm touching the ground, I'm touching the ground because I'm really lunging into that knee and hip and I'm pushing the ground away. It's really about working the leg. Try maybe tapping in another place. And one more. Okay, we come into extended angle pose, and now as you stay, can you feel that hip flexion, that drawing of the thigh bone in the hip socket? And then distribute the energy, push out through that back heel, reach the top arm. Gently rotate through the chest. And rising all the way up. Remember this feeling, we take that into triangle pose. So, that thing I mentioned about rotating the knee over the second big toe, when you bend your knee, right, if you bring the knee in, that's not a bad movement, but what we're kind of training is the opening up of the inner thigh and the working of the outer hip muscles. And so to do that, we're drawing the toe a little bit more over the second and third toe. Right? So see if we can maintain that as we straighten the leg. And then tipping from the hips. And again, that tip, as much as possible, comes from the hips, so the spine remains relatively undisturbed, has a little bit more freedom, ability to support our breath. You take 3 breaths here. See what it feels like to really anchor in the legs. The upper body's a little bit freer. And release. All right, shake your body out. Take a few stretches. A few roll downs. Put your legs up. Did a lot of leg work. And let me know how you get on with that. And if you have any questions, okay, and definitely subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any videos I post each month. And I'd love to see you in an online class very soon. Take care.